Hello everyone and welcome to my full and complete review of the Vodafone Smart Tab II. Now before we begin, let me say a big thank you to Vodafone themselves for lending me this product to review. But let me be clear that this does not impact my judgment of a review. My opinions are very much my own and they will be based on the merits of the device and not the generosity of the lenders. So off we go. In part 1 we'll take a look at what the Smart Tab II is and the aesthetics of the device. The Smart Tab II falls into the 7-inch Android tablet category, putting it into a pretty crowded and competitive market. But the big selling point of this tablet is that, as well as being as cheap as the Nexus 7 at £149, it also has 3G connectivity, meaning you're free from the leashes of Wi-Fi. More on that in a later video. Starting at the top of the tablet, we have a microphone, headphone jack, micro USB port, and the power button. Along the right hand side of the tablet we have a volume rocker, and other than that it's smooth edges all around the tablet. But watch this little trick. The casing on the camera on the back side of the tablet slides off to reveal some very interesting things. First of all is a traditionally sized SIM card slot for your 3G access, and a micro SD card slot for up to 32GB of storage. Impressive, but also imperative, as the Smart Tab II has a very small 4GB of internal storage. The back of the tablet is comprised of plastic casing with large dimples to improve grip, which is alright. Oh, and don't forget the rear-facing camera, another nice touch. Unavoidably, the Smart Tab II is going to be compared to the Nexus 7, so this is what the two look like side by side. As you can see, the Nexus 7 is slightly taller, but width-wise they are indistinguishable, and the same can be said about the thickness of the two tablets. If there are any differences, they are minuscule, and this is all a good thing because this is a very good set of dimensions for a 7-inch tablet. One area where the Smart Tab does let itself down, however, is its weight. I immediately noticed how heavy this thing is in my hands, and the numbers confirm this when I put it on some weighing scales. At 412 grams, this weighs approximately 30% more than the Nexus 7, which means that if you're using a tablet like this, you'll start to reposition it in your hand as it begins to feel heavy and uncomfortable. The Smart Tab II is well made and solid, but perhaps it's a little too solid for comfort. In saying that, it's an impressive start for the Smart Tab II. The rear-facing camera, card expansion slot and 3G connectivity give this tablet plenty more features than similar 7-inch tablets. But can it continue its impressive start with solid tablet performance? Now, this review is going to consist of my impressions of turning on the tablet for the very first time. I've not logged into any of my Google accounts and I've not downloaded any additional applications. So this is basically what you get of a Vodafone Smart Tab II out of the box. And as you can see, the first thing you'll notice is you can switch this to landscape mode. And you may notice, if you've been experienced with other Android devices and tablets, that this operating system is somewhat a little out of date. That's because it's running the Android ice cream sandwich version of the Android operating system, which has been around for a year now. Each home screen has a few of the more popular applications and some widgets such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter and weather. It's certainly not jam-packed full of applications and goodies, but I think this is a good thing because it allows you to start with a fresh, uncluttered tablet that you can add applications of your choice to. Now, as you can see in the settings, it's running Android version 4.04, which is Ice Cream Sandwich, and unfortunately you can't update this to the new Jelly Bean operating system that you'd find in the Nexus 7. I did ask Vodafone whether they'd be updating it to 4.1 Jelly Bean, but there doesn't appear to be any plans to at the moment. The next problem is onboard memory storage. Look here, there's 500 meg in this partition and then another 1.8 gig in another partition. So that only gives you 2.3 gigs worth of storage space to put music and applications on. So you're definitely going to need to use a micro SD card which you can put into the device. The default browser of the Smart Tab II is Google Chrome, which is a very fast internet browser for tablets and smartphones. It does default to a mobile browser, so as you can see here I'm on the BBC website and it's automatically defaulting to what you might find on a smartphone or indeed a 7-inch tablet such as this. You can change it to the more desktop version by going to settings and then requesting a desktop site, and this will then load up the website of your choice in a desktop mode. It does obviously take a little bit longer, and the tablet maybe struggles a little bit. It's still fine, as you can see it's scrolling okay. There's a bit of lag as I'm scrolling up and down there, and when I zoom in, yeah, it did deal with it relatively fine. I would say in comparison to other tablets, this is definitely an average benchmark performance. Nothing fantastic, but at the same time it's not too slow either. Now, to give it a little bit of a stress test, I'm going to go to the Major League Baseball website, which is full of all sorts of wizardry in terms of a website, and it usually takes a long time to load on a tablet. And while it's loading, let me just say that the performance is more than acceptable on this tablet. Because of its price, which is very cheap, £150, you are buying an economy tablet, so you have to expect that things aren't going to run very fast, but they still should run okay. Now, I've been talking for about 20 seconds there, and the website still hasn't loaded up. And in the end, it didn't load up properly at all. This blank black space at the top of a website, which I didn't realise until I started scrolling, that it had now finished the website. So obviously something hasn't gone quite right there. But to be fair, this is a Major League Baseball website, which is, for me, one of those websites that do find out whether an application can cope with it. And there, as you can see, Chrome just gave up in the end and completely crashed. But I'm not going to give it too much of a criticism. Now, interestingly, this tablet does come with a second browser. And this is one of the older browsers that's come with Honeycomb and Ice Cream Sandwich browsers, but actually includes Flash on board. Now, Flash is something that's been taken out of the tablets since the Jelly Bean update. You can manually install it onto Jelly Bean tablets, but it's a bit of a hack job. But in this instance, the tablet simply comes with Flash, so if you go to the BBC website, you can watch videos without any problems, and they work quite well, as you can see in this example. So it's a bit of a positive aspect that the tablet is a little bit behind the times and still has this nice feature of Flash working without having to do any extra work. Although, as you can see, it did just stuff for a little bit in performance, but that could be the Wi-Fi performance of my internet. The other thing to point out is that the two speakers are on the back of a tablet, which again means that the sound is projecting itself away from the user, which I always find a bit of an irritation. So if we look at the graphical performance of the tablet a little bit now, and we use Google Maps, we can again say that the performance is average. It's solid and I would say reliable. I'm just looking around Hull, where I live, and as you can see, it's loading up the page fairly smoothly. There is a bit of a delay, but it's nothing that's going to impede you from using it if you're just sitting down on the couch, just relaxing and browsing the maps. Now I'm going to put the satellite on, and again it switches to the satellite mode in a very acceptable time. Scrolling around, you can just see that the page is being built up as I scroll around, but it's nothing too concerning. It feels like you're using a slower tablet. It's not a premium tablet, but again, not a problem. And if I jump to London, so I'm jumping very quickly from one place to another, again, it takes about 3 or 4 seconds to load up a map. But this is fairly acceptable performance, and there's no crashing, reliable stuff. And to quickly look at two productivity applications, we have Documents to Go, which is useful, and a File Manager, which is very useful for a tablet. Like Flash, it's another one of those things where you don't have to go off into the marketplace to try and find a suitable application. It's there within the tablet, and it just makes things much easier for a novice user. What you're seeing here are two pictures I took with a rear-facing camera. I'm not going to go into too much detail in these cameras. You can judge the quality for yourselves. But I'm going to say that, again, it's a economy tablet, but it's nice to have this feature. You don't have a rear-facing camera on the Nexus 7. That's one of the big minus points. So it's nice to be able to have this opportunity to take pictures of my thumbs. Coming up next are two videos I took with the tablet, and I'll apologise for the first video as I think I had my finger over the microphone for the first part. So that's my fault in terms of the quality.
And this is the performance of the rear-facing camera. I hope you can see me, because obviously I can't see the screen, so I'm just looking at the camera. And this is the performance of a front-facing camera, which obviously I can see the screen for. And the frame rate does look very jerky.
The final test I'm going to do in this part of the review is to look at a YouTube video, so see how the video performance is. So I'm just going to go to the YouTube application, and I'm going to, just by chance, find one of my videos and see how quickly it loads and the general performance. So let's take a look at some genius work. The battle lines have been drawn. This winter, a technological conflict will determine the fate of the tablet market. Just like almost every other aspect of a Smart Tab 2, you can say not bad. Not bad at all for the price you're paying. However, it's not as good as an Nexus 7, which costs the same price, minus a 3G. Now, I've attached my email to the tablet, so this means that I can access all my Google accounts, and that includes getting onto the Google Play Market. And the first thing I'm going to do in the Google Play Market is to download a live wallpaper, just to give my background a bit more of an interactive and pretty feel. So let's take a look at the live wallpaper I'm going to use, and that live wallpaper is called Lonely Tree. This is just a demo version, but it does look glorious on my Nexus 7, and so applying it to the Smart Tab 2, and it looks glorious on this one as well. And if I scroll through the pages, it does impact the scrolling a tiny amount. It might not be noticeable on the tablet as I'm doing it, but it does have a tiny effect, but nothing too distracting. Next on the list is to download a game, and that game is going to be Jetpack Joyride, which seems to be the game of choice when I'm demonstrating on various tablets. So we'll just install that, and as it is installing, we'll just take another look around the tablet and see what else we can do with it. Now, I'm a big fan of reading, and the 7-inch form factor of these tablets is absolutely ideal to create a brilliant reading environment. So what I'm going to do now is go to the Amazon Kindle application that does come pre-installed on the Smart Tab 2, so you don't have to download it. And I've tied my Kindle account to this tablet so we can read a book. Now, one thing I will note just before I start scrolling through the pages is that the screen dimensions of the Smart Tab 2 seem a little different to the Nexus 7. The screen length is a little bit longer and the screen width is a little bit shorter. So it does give you a little bit of a different feel if you're comparing it to another tablet, but you probably won't recognise this if you just own one tablet. Now, as you can see, the Kindle application is coping absolutely fine with me scrolling quickly through pages and changing fonts, which isn't always the case on all e-readers, but the Amazon Kindle application does seem to be excelling in performance in that regard. The game still hasn't quite downloaded at the moment, so let's quickly look at this built-in Wikipedia application. And I'm not going to do a search, I'm just going to choose the random article of the day and see how quickly the application gets there. And it gets there very quickly, no problems at all. So I've just done a few general things moving from application to application, so the market to e-reading to Wikipedia, and the tablet is coping absolutely fine with all tests. So onto the game itself. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to be quiet for a minute and I'll just play the game and I'll let you judge how it runs. 2 points I noticed while playing this game. First of all, the speakers, which you heard me putting up to full volume, are excellent. They produce very loud sound, and the quality is more than acceptable. And it's not always the case with tablets that you get speakers that are loud enough. The second point, and this is a bit of a negative, is that the resolution of a tablet isn't as high as the Nexus 7. It's 1026 by 600. So it's a small drop in resolution, but if you have used a Nexus 7, you will notice it. So 2 points there, 1 a good point and 1 a bad point. But the application itself has run very well. There's been no slowdown. It's run very fast. I've had no problems at all, and nothing the tablet's doing is impeding me from playing the game. I'm just dying because I'm not very good at it. So again, another positive performance from the tablet. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put it back into portrait mode, and we'll just use the task manager to quickly look at some of the applications that I've used. IMDb I haven't used for 24 hours, but it's still in the list. and as you can see, it loads up very quickly. Then I'm going to go to the e-reader, which I had up 5 minutes ago, the Amazon Kindle. Again, 2 or 3 seconds to load back up into the application, and then we'll switch back to the game I was playing a second ago, and as you can see, it jumps back in there very quickly, no problems. So again, good multitasking performance here from the Smart Tab II. Now, the next test is to download a media player from the marketplace, which is MX Player. And what I'm going to do when I download this media player is use the micro SD card in the back of a tablet. Of course, this is one of the positive selling points of the tablet, in that you have external storage capacity in order to increase the meager 2 gigabytes that you end up having in the internal memory. It is 4 gigabytes, but after the storage of the operating system, you really don't have much to play with. So I'm trying to insert a card in the back of a tablet. I realise that there's no spring mount here, so you've kind of got to put it in the top part of a slot and then slide it down, and then it's in there. And now I'm doing all this with the tablet still on, so you don't have to turn the tablet off or anything, which is another positive. So I can just unlock it, and the SD card should now be detected. And if I check in the notifications, it takes me to the file manager, which is included on the Smart Tab II, which is another positive. And I'm just going to play a video straight away, and again, we'll see how it performs.
The rough atmosphere. You're not in a hotel. This is rough. Look at the lows.
I would say that worked perfectly. Now, the last test I'm going to do is to try and plug in a USB OTG cable, which is an on-the-go cable. And on the Nexus 7, this enables you to plug in USB devices such as mouses, memory sticks, and even Xbox controllers. However, when I plugged in a mouse and also the Xbox controller, it didn't seem to work. It may be that the Smart Tab II is unable to power USB devices from this micro USB port. Nevertheless, this has been a strong performance from the Smart Tab II. There's very little to complain about, so we'll see how it performs in a 3G test, which is coming up next. In this review, we're going to do something that not many tablets can do. We are going to turn off Wi-Fi and access the internet via 3G, which is built into the device. It sounds great, doesn't it? And what's even better is that it doesn't seem to impact the price of a tablet, which is still one of the cheapest currently available. We'll go into prices in a little more detail later, but you can get this tablet with 3G for as little as £149. That's nearly £100 cheaper than the Nexus 7 equivalent, although that model comes with 32 gigabytes of storage, whereas the Smart Tab II comes with just 4 gigabytes, but you can expand it through micro SD cards. So, as you saw, the tablet is now connected to the Vodafone network, and I'm currently running on 3G. So, no Wi-Fi, I can take this anywhere I want, and as long as I have a signal, I'll be able to browse the internet. Currently, I'm on Google Chrome, and I'm searching around the BBC website on their mobile version. And as you can see, the speed is very good. It's going through the pages nice and quickly, loading them up in a couple of seconds, and that's very acceptable. But now let's up the stakes and try and request the desktop version of a BBC website. And what you will notice immediately is there is a significant slowdown in speed, because obviously the main BBC website is much more complicated than the mobile version, and it's taking significantly longer to load. Imagine when you're using a mobile phone, it's very rare that you actually go to a normal website because it takes too long for the website to load. And we're suffering from the same thing in this version, but it's on a 7-inch tablet this time. And unfortunately, it's about to get worse when I try and play a video. Now, I've gone to the other browser, which includes Flash, but what you're going to see here is some incredibly long waiting times, as first of all, it takes a while to load up the page, and then to actually load up the video, it takes even longer. If you're looking for those nice scrolling, swirling loading screens, you're going to find a lot of them when you're using the 3G network.
Do you remember the original Batman series? 1960s TV that was, you remember?
And you may have to contend with some buffering as well.
For the Batmobile, it sold at auction for $4.2 million. Almost 6 meters long, bubble-topped and...
Now, I think the inherent problem is that if you have a tablet, you want to use it as a tablet, which is much closer to using a computer or a laptop compared to a mobile phone, where often all you're doing is checking emails, checking your Facebook status, or quickly going on an application which is designed for a mobile device so it doesn't use too much data. A tablet, on the other hand, is much different. You want to look at the main web page, or you want to look at a video and stream something, and that can cause significant problems when you're on a network which is as slow as 3G. Again, I've gone to YouTube just to test to see if the streaming wasn't that good on the BBC, but as you will see on this YouTube application, I can talk for a very long time until the video starts. And the other thing to consider is that I'm stationary, so the connection is stable. If I was travelling, it could fluctuate from being faster or slower at different times.
Hello procrastinators and welcome back to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Now, since we last played, we had a small problem, little problem.
I will just scroll this video forward a little bit to see how long it takes to get to the next section of it. And while I do that, you also have to consider how often you would use a tablet when you're travelling from point A to point B. And by that I mean probably point A and point B have Wi-Fi connections, so you can connect the tablet to something faster.
I'm still kind of thinking, what do you guys think about having, like, putting just a wall up between each world and then just having, like, little worlds like this that just align and then stuff? Because then we can actually have loads of different things.
The next test is to download something of significant size from the Google Play Market. And that is going to be Temple Run, which is about 20 megabytes in size. So let's start that up and see how long it takes to download. Once again, I find that navigating between the different pages is fine because essentially I'm using a mobile application. But the moment I start downloading, I'm going to drop into significant issues because the download rate is just not quick enough. Let's have a look at how quick the download rate is going. And as you can see, it's moving at about 50k a second, if that. And that's going to take a long time to download a 20 meg file. If I check the connection, you can see that it's still pretty solid and stable. So this is just going to take too long to download. Before we summarise the 3G capabilities of the Vodafone Smart Tab II, let's look at how much this device costs, and this of course applies to UK customers only. You can either purchase it on a pay monthly contract or pay up front. On a pay monthly cost, it's £29 up front and then a further £20 per month to get 2 gigabytes of data. If you go over that allowance, it's a hefty £50 for each additional gigabyte. And that's a minimum of a 2-year contract. So the total cost comes to around £500 for a tablet, which is extremely steep. If we look at the pay-as-you-go alternative, that is just £149 to pay for the device up front, and that includes 500 megabytes of data over 60 days, and you can top up for another £5 per month for 250 meg. So there's not much data allowance there, and if you were going to use a tablet as you would expect to use a tablet, then you go over your allowance pretty quickly. 3G on a tablet is little more than a gimmick for 2 reasons. First and foremost, it's not fast enough to cope with what you want to do with a tablet when you're connected to the internet. And secondly, consider how often you would use a tablet when you're in situations where you don't have access to free Wi-Fi. Unless you travel a hell of a lot, it won't be that often. The other problem is Vodafone charge far too much for something that's not very practical. £20 a month for 2 gigabytes, £5 for a 250 megabyte top-up. It's just too excessive. And consider this, you might not even need 3G in a tablet at all. Have you ever thought about tethering your mobile phone's 3G data to your tablet? It can be done, and for many people on contracts it won't cost any more, but don't quote me on that, check your contract before you try this. So I would say that while having 3G squeezed into a tablet that's incredibly cheap, as long as you pay for it up front, is very impressive, it's not fast enough and it's too expensive to use. Over the previous 4 videos, we have looked at the design, performance and unique features of this 7-inch tablet. And what I can say is that this is not a bad tablet. Not a bad tablet at all. However, I can also say that this is not a great tablet. Not a great tablet at all. Now that might sound like the worst summary of a review ever. How much more can I sit on the fence than that? Well, I'm not being neutral at all actually. This is very much a case of the pros and cons pretty much cancel out this tablet for any overall criticism or praise. How does it do this? Well, the tablet is solid and well made. It feels robust in your hand, but at the same time it feels a little bit on the heavy side and it makes it uncomfortable to hold in a single hand for any length of time. It also has an expandable memory slot for micro SD cards, which is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, since you only start with around 2 GB of available storage, it's absolutely essential and it adds cost to the base price of a tablet. The software is solid and reliable, and I like the way that Vodafone have included some essential apps like a second browser for Flash, Amazon Kindle and an office style program rather than filling it full of bloated software. Unfortunately, the software that runs this is over a year old and has been superseded by the far superior Jelly Bean 4.1 operating system, and there doesn't appear to be any urgency by Vodafone to put Jelly Bean onto this tablet. The performance of the tablet is very creditable. During my tests on browsing, playing games and watching videos, there was nothing that rang any alarm bells. Actually, it's surprisingly quick. However, the screen resolution is a bit on the small side and, as much as I've tried to avoid comparisons so far, the Nexus 7 simply performs better. And that's the shadow the Smart Tab II has been under throughout my whole review. If I didn't own a Nexus 7, I could be easily fooled into thinking the Smart Tab II is a strong performer. And that's not a bad thing. If I did own this tablet, I wouldn't be ashamed of it. But the Nexus 7 has set such a benchmark at this particular price point that it makes it very difficult for any other tablet to compete against it. In order to compete against the Nexus 7, the Smart Tab II needs to be different, and thankfully it is. The rear-facing camera adds picture taking and video recording to the mix, which is something the Nexus 7 definitively can't do, and the 3G connectivity of the Smart Tab II adds yet another feature that, although the Nexus 7 can do, it does do at a much higher price point. But, and this is from my personal experience, I've never used rear-facing cameras on any of the other tablets I've owned, so while it's nice to have, I don't think it adds much of an incentive to buy. As for 3G, and this is my personal opinion, I think this is a bit of a red herring on tablets. 3G is generally not fast enough to cope with the type of things you want to do on a tablet. And tell me, how often have you wanted to use your tablet for internet use when there is no Wi-Fi connection around? For me, it's never. In those particular situations, I want to use my mobile phone. And as a side point, Vodafone haven't done themselves any favours with the data plans they have available, which are at the point of being extortionate. But as a whole package, if you want a 7-inch tablet with a camera, with a micro SD card slot, with 3G and with good performance, then I'm happy to push the Vodafone Smart Tab II your way. At a mere £149, it's fantastic value. If you want the best 7-inch tablet around for just an extra £10, however, the Nexus 7 is still the tablet to beat. Many thanks to Vodafone for lending me this product to review. Many thanks to you for watching this review, and I'll see you all again very soon.